Okay. Hi, I'm Donna, and even though I seem like I'm super peppy and happy, I'm here to talk about grief. Yeah, grief. It's not a great topic that most people want to talk about, but having been through what I've been through this year, past couple months, I feel that I can talk from experience, maybe spread a little wisdom, maybe, I don't know. That or at least I can tell my story. So if you want to keep listening, just keep watching the video. Okay, so let's begin with the first thing that happened to me and my family. My mother's best friend, who was one of our dogs, his name was Chewy, and I can't remember the exact date that he passed away on, which is really bad. But he passed away when my mother was at home. She had went to Kansas to go with her friends from college to go do like a little get together thing. And I remember we were arguing before she left. Now she just kept saying that if he was gone, it would be easier because she thought that we didn't want to keep. She thought that we didn't want to take care of him, and I told her it would be no problem, and so she went on her trip, left us to take care of the animals. We had 3 dogs, now we only have 2, and so, yeah, I walked down at like 12 o'clock, like in the afternoon, like lunchtime, because he passed away on a Sunday. And I go downstairs, and I see his body on the living room floor. And the first thing that my brother does is he picks him up to see if he's breathing. And he wasn't. And so he put him back down, and I'm kind of in shock, I'm like, this can't be happening. My mother's going to hate me. It's all my fault. I didn't take care of him well enough, and then I'm like, I have to call my mother. My mother was on her way back from Oklahoma. She's coming back from Kansas. And so I had to call her, right? And I had to tell, I didn't want to wait for her to get home, because I felt that she would be more mad at me if I waited, but I didn't want to upset her while she was on the road. But I felt like I had to tell somebody. I had to tell somebody, because it was me and my younger brother home alone. I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do. And so I'm calling her, she's not picking up her phone. I'm like, please pick up your phone, please. And I leave her a message. I don't tell her in the message what's happened, because, that's just messed up for you to do. I'm like, Mom, please call me as soon as you get this. Something bad has happened, and I don't know what to do. And 20 minutes go by, I haven't gotten a call from her. And so I'm freaking out. I'm belligerently crying, looking like a fool. And so I call the only person else that I can think to call, and that's my grandmother. And she lives 2.5 hours away in Fulton, Missouri. And I'm crying so much. She's like, Donna, you need to take a breath. You have to tell me what happened. You have to breathe so I can figure out what's wrong, so I can try to help fix it. And I'm like, Chewy's dead. He's on the living room floor, and Mom's not home. And she's like, well, get a towel, cover him up, and I will try to call your mother. And then 10 minutes after that, my mother calls me, and I ask her if she's talked to Mima, which is my grandmother, and she says no. But I've heard your message, so what's wrong? What's happened? And I honestly, I didn't know how to put it. Should I go in easy? Should I just straight out tell her? And I couldn't think of anything. And so I was like, Chewy's dead. We found him on the floor in the living room, and he's dead. Of course, I wasn't this calm. I was crying. I couldn't breathe. I was basically having a mini panic attack at the time. And she says, "Did you cover him up?" He said, "Yes, that's what Mima told me to do." And she says, "Okay, wait for me to get home, and then we'll go from there, right?" So 2 hours later, she's home, and she puts on a good front at the beginning, but I begin crying when she gets home because I feel so guilty. I felt very, very guilty about his death. I really, really put a lot of blame on myself for it happening because I was supposed to be watching him. And so when she gets home, she starts crying. She picks up his little limp body and starts holding him. Like, it was very bad. And so then she puts him in a trash bag, which sounds very bad, but we bury all of our dogs at my Mima's house. It's just kind of a thing. And so she packs him up for travel, basically, and then continues to cry. And so that was one Sunday, right? That was just one loss. That was the first time in a really long time that I felt the loss of something. Like, my great-grandmother has passed, my mother's grandmother, but I've never lost anybody, like a person or an animal that close to me that we'd had forever. You know, Chewy was a part of our family, and to lose him, even our other two dogs knew that something was wrong, and you know, it took a toll. On our family. And the messed up thing is, I went to school the next day. Everything just kept moving. Even though when you feel the loss of something in your life, time should stop, right? It should stop moving. Because that one piece of you is gone. It's been ripped out of you, and it's gone. And you're not going to be able to get it back. Okay, so then we're gonna go forward a week, right? A week after Chewy passed away on Sunday. This was right around Thanksgiving, because Chewy passed away the Sunday before we went on Thanksgiving break. And so my grandfather, on my father's side, not my mother's, still doing it. I'm still talking as though he's still here, and he's not. This is the second thing that whatever that I lost. He had very bad lungs. He couldn't really breathe on his own. He had an oxygen tank at his house that he had to have 24/7. And so he went into the hospital on Thanksgiving Day. He fell, and an ambulance had to take him away to the hospital. And I was 2.5 hours away at my other grandparents when this happened. I had no idea that he was in the hospital until my brother told me. My father texted my brother, my younger brother, instead of telling me. And we were coming back. We came back on Sunday, obviously, because we had school Monday. And we're in the car ride home with my other grandmother and my cousin. And Tyler gets a call from my father, and he says, "Donna, you're not going to believe what happened. You're not going to believe it." Whenever my brother gets off the phone, and with all the crap that had happened the week before, I was like, is Grandpa dead? The messed up thing was I wasn't completely prepared for him to say yes. But he did. My grandfather passed away November 27th. And he passed away. And we got told on our 2.5 car ride back. And so I was trapped in a car, crying over my grandpa. And when we got home, my grandmother left right away because we were going to go straight to my other grandparents' house to see my father and to see my other grandma. And so we went there, and my dad was a mess. He had already lost his real mom, at a young age. When he was 5, his mom died of cancer. And so him losing his dad is kind of like him losing his last real parent. And so he was bad. He was so angry and upset. I was too. Whenever I got home, before we went to my other grandparents, when my other grandma dropped us off, I was so pissed. I was like, my grandfather told me the last time I saw him alive, he told me that he had 9 months to a year. He had more time. And he died a month later. And then you think of everything that person is going to miss out on your life. Because my mother's grandmother died when she was 40-something, right? So her grandmother, she got to see her grow up. And she got to see her graduate. She got to see her have children. And my grandfather's never going to see that for me. And I think that is what really got me. And so when we got to their house, my grandmother and my grandmother and her other son greeted us at the door, and my father was upstairs in his room, and my mother had to go get him, and yeah. And so I couldn't, when we went into the living room, I couldn't sit in his chair. There was a chair, and he always sat in it, and I couldn't sit in it. I couldn't. I had to sit on the couch, because that was his chair. That was not mine for me to, that's not me to sit. I couldn't sit there. Anyway. And so I just sat there, and I was crying, and my dad was crying, and my grandmother she kept telling me how great of a day it was whenever he passed away, right? How happy he was, and how he had 2 meals, like 2 breakfasts, and he was so happy and joshing around and having a blast. And I was just, I kind of wanted to tell her, can you shut up for a second? Because I'm upset, and I don't want that kind of comforting right now. And the most ironic, it's not really ironic, but the most thing that sucks is that the day that he died, he was supposed to be coming home. He was up and walking, and he was supposed to go home and live out his days at home, right? But nope, God had a different plan. He said, Emil, this is your last day, and he took him. That's another thing about grief that most people don't talk about, is how confused / pissed off you are. You're like, yeah, I was pissed off at God. I'm still you're kind of like, what the hell, man? My grandfather was supposed to be here for a little, not a lot longer, but longer than that. He was supposed to be here longer. And so grief is not just sadness. Grief is more than one emotion combined into a ball. You're mad, you're upset, you're confused, and you're a little depressed. Like I said, time feels as though it should stop. When my grandfather, like with Chewy, when my grandfather died on Sunday, I had to wake up and go to school on Monday. I didn't get to lounge around at home because I was upset that my grandfather had passed away. I didn't get that. I had to get my ass up and go to school. Life moves on, even though parts of your life doesn't. You have to pick yourself up and keep going. And like my dad told me, he told me this on the day that we went on November 27th, when we went to their house. He was like, it comes in waves. Grief doesn't just hit you and then go away. It'll hit you right when it happens, and then it'll subside a little bit. It'll back off. It'll dissipate in your life. It'll go away for a little bit. And then you'll see something that will remind you of it or of them. Like, I found some old pictures, and and then it'll come back and it'll hit you, and then it'll go back away, and it'll come back and hit you again. And it's just a constant battle throughout your life. And so, yeah. And so I guess the end story of this is I lost two pieces within a week of each other. And I didn't think that I could go. I didn't want to go forward. I kept saying that I wanted God to take me instead of my grandfather, because he was such a great person. If anyone would have met him, he was a great man. He was funny, and he was kind and sweet, and he cared so much about everyone else. He was that kind of person. He worried about my other grandparents more than he worried about himself. And I felt that the world got a little worse because he's not here anymore. Like, God should swap us out, He should come back and then I should go. Because I'm contributing nothing. He contributed so much love that it's hard that it's not here anymore. So, I don't know what else to talk about. But yeah, grief is a hard thing to deal with. It is something that ages you like that within a snap. Reality sets in, Life isn't forever. I know that everyone, that, but you don't really grasp the concept until something like a loss has happened to you. And not just a loss. It has to be someone or something that was very close for you to actually feel it. Because I will always remember the conversations that I had with him. And how he always told me his stories and everything else. I will always remember him and my dog and our dog. They will always be with me. Even if it hurts a little bit to carry them in my heart, they will always be there. And I guess that's the end conclusion for my talk of grief. For now, I guess. For now. So this is Donna signing off.